Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this Digital EMEA FP&A Circle webinar, where today we will be talking about FP&A in the age of AI, building expertise for a data-driven future. My name is Hans Gobin, and I will be your facilitator for today. Just to let you know, we are being joined by well over 300 people from 40 countries across the world. So what have we got on the agenda for you today? And before that, just a very quick slide on the previous meetings we've had in the region before. There is lots of them. You can have a look at it here. So in terms of agenda, what do you have on for you today? So we will look at introduction and an overview of AI in FP&A. First of all, then we will look at laying the groundwork for AI insights from a case study, mastering AI transformation, navigating change management, very important for successful implementation, data first strategy for AI in FP&A. Then we will look at accelerating AI and ML evolution, how technology drives the next breakthrough. Conclusion and recommendation, followed by our Q&A session. Now is a good time for me to introduce to you my speakers or the panelists we have on for you today. So panelists, please, if you can turn your camera on and come and join us, and I will introduce you one by one. Our first panelist today will be Stefan Leverati, who is Vice President, Group Financial Performance, Iron Beams Application SA, based in Brussels, Belgium, where he's joining us from today. And of course, he will be talking about how do you lay the groundwork for AI, insight from his own case study. Stefan, great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Hans.
Fantastic. Let's move on to our second panelist today, who is going to be Matthew Dawn, who is CFO at Eurostyle Systems, based in Paris, France. And he will take us through mastering AI transformation, navigating change management for successful implementation. Stefan, thank you for joining us today.
Yes. Hello, Hans. Hello, everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stefan. Looking forward to your presentation. The third panelist today is Tanya Schlesinger, Vice President Intelligent One Source at DB Regio AG, the Deutsche Bahn Group, based in Wiesbaden, Germany. And today she will take us through data's first strategy for digital FP&A. Tanya, great to have you with us again.
Thank you, Hans, for having me on your panel.
Brilliant. Thank you. Last but not least, we have Dr. Rolf Jürgen-Mentel, who is a Chief Product Officer at Jedox. He's based in Frankfurt, Germany, and today he will take us through accelerating your AI ML evolution. How can technology drive the next breakthrough? Rolf, great to have you again with us.
Thank you, Hans, for having me as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got four fantastic panelists and great insight awaiting us in the next few minutes. But for now, I need to do some housekeeping, so I'm going to kindly ask our panelists to just turn their camera off so I can head and take you through some of the housekeeping. This is a slide on projects and initiative, FP&A trends. As you know, we are international. We have done 257 FP&A board meetings across 33 countries, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, you are on one of our webinars. I think we are heading to 165 upwards. Lots of survey, lots of people responding. So please carry on helping us with all the survey and our research papers that a lot of people are consuming as well. Please join us on the LinkedIn group as well as our website. We also have an AI FP&A committee for those people who don't know. And if you want to be part of it, please send us an email. So that's a little bit about FP&A trends and what we have as projects. Let me very quickly then take you through what is the FP&A Circle all about. So we have a 90 minutes webinar. Your participation is via 3 polling question, and we also have a very good interactive Q&A session at the end. So please, can I ask you guys to ask you questions via the chat box? You can start right now if you've got any burning question on the subject matter, or wait till our speakers have spoken, and then you can ask the question after. Please make sure you tell us which speaker you want those questions to be answered from. You can network with all of our speakers directly via LinkedIn. Please do so if you would like. The presentation is available in handouts for you to download right now. If you don't, you will still receive a copy of the recording and a copy of the presentation within a couple of days after the meeting. And finally, when I close the session, you will get a feedback form that pops up. Please give us some feedback as to how we did. This is very valuable for us, but also tell us what are the subject matters you would like to hear from us in the future as well. So now let's move on to some introduction. So our introduction to our global sponsor leader, who is Jedox. We all know Jedox. They're the world's most adaptable planning and performance management platform and help us through our finance life. So a great thank you here to Jedox. And then a quick introduction to the subject matter from me. So bear with me when I move the slide. I thought I'd start with a very great quote from Jeff Bezos, of course, CEO of Amazon and founder. We are at the beginning of the golden age of AI. Recent advancements have led to invention that previously lived in the realm of science fiction. And we've only scratched the surface of what's possible. So basically, we have seen a massive improvement, but of course, there is a lot more to come. So, we just have to wait and see what goes on. I thought I'd very quickly share with you once again the key stats and challenges. And here I'll draw your attention to the amount of time FP&A spends on low value activities and what is it on higher value activities. So higher value activities is around 35% of our time. We wished it was a lot more, much more than 56% of the time. But what are we doing wrong? And how does that dial change if we start to use AI and ML in the scheme of things? You will see here all the greens and all the improvement of all these stats once we start to use AI and ML to deliver our forecasts, etc., and our financial planning. I will let you read that in your own time. But I'd like to leave you with a closing thought, and we will come and discuss this later on. What we've seen in the FP&A Trends Survey, and you can see the top bar chart there, is the adoption of AI, ML, predictive analytics seem to have either plateaued or dropping slightly over the years. Why is that? What's happening to make us, do this? So we will come to this point. We've got one of our discussion questions that is on it later on. That's it from me. Let us move on to our first speaker, Stefan Leverati from Iron Beam's application. And today, Stefan will talk to us about laying the foundation for AI from his own case study. Stefan, over to you whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you, Hans. Hope you hear me well. Indeed, glad to be with you all today. Let me introduce first myself quickly to picture the case study that I will show you. So 25 years in FP&A now, in different industries, can be insurance, commercial products, and now industrial business. 15 years I'm working for this Belgium company at stock exchange Euronext. We produce, operate medical devices all around the world, mainly to diagnostic, let's say, cancer, but also treat cancer. So the idea today is to share with you guys, let's say, our life around AI and what we're living today, basically. So first thing is that, I mean, there is three pillars around AI. There's people, there's data, and technology. The three aspects are quite important and not to be, let's say, neglected, especially for people, knowing that there is all change management behind all of that. So let's take the three of them one by one, and let's start with people. So around people, what did we do? So first of all, we published artificial intelligence governance just to make sure that we have, let's say, a governance around it, that people knows what they can do, cannot do. So, for example, we ban some, let's say, artificial intelligence. We promote some others just for security reasons, for example. We also set up some lunch sessions for people. We have 2,000 people around the world. So it was important to, let's say, make them acquainted to this new technology, this new tool, which is AI. So we had partnership with like the Belgium Verrek Business School for that. Also, we create new positions like data scientists within finance. That's also very important because it's like new roles that we need to, let's say, put in place in the company. And we started with the, let's say, most simple part, which is accessible for people, which is mainly RPA. So the robotic process automation for some FP&A transactions. And thanks to that, we've been able, despite the 13% annual growth, to keep the same staff. So it's a faster delivery, basically with the same number of people. We also try for people, let's say, all the AI which is available in all the business suite. It can be for presentation. We have like AI designers now. One which is very nice, and I'll talk briefly after. It's all about chatbot to automate FAQ. And finally, make sure that people start to use AI on a regular basis. Let's say, for example, for meeting summary. So there's more and more tools to help and basically optimize the time of FP&A people. So that's about people. It's not finished. Of course, it takes lots of time, but about data now, there's also a lot to do on that. So what have we done about data? So it depends on the companies, but for our company, most of our revenues is coming from service. And so we wanted to first start with that. So we worked on set up OIT on the machines that we are selling and monitoring to reduce the failure rate of our machines to be able to have a preventive maintenance. And that is important also for FP&A people because we've been able to, let's say, make sure that we know what's going to be our drivers behind that, and it helps for our financial model and forecasting behind. So again, depends on the type of company you have, but you might think about what you want to monitor. In terms of other data, so there's master data, which is quite critical, and wanted to put governance around it to make sure that there is a clear responsibility. That was also a key milestone. And we designed financial model based on key drivers, internal or external. We were doing that basically before in basically Excel files, but now we're moving to, let's say, integrate that within the ERP to have, let's say, something a bit more easy to do scenarios. Data cleaning. We all suffer about that, especially when we try to do ERP upgrades. So that's something that we don't want to repeat. Then the master data governance. So we spend quite a lot of time on that also. And finally, try to simplify as much as we could. So for us, for example, revenue recognition is like a big matter, IFRS 15. So we try to simplify what we could in the model to keep what is very essential for the business. And the final one, technology. Usually we jump into that straight away. but for us it's like the third pillar. So we had like let's say an idea about where we want to go, where the roadmap for our IT guys. So first we did a ERP upgrade. We tried to integrate as much as we could advanced planning, group consolidation with it. It's still ongoing, actually, as we speak. We also tried to implement also a new HR system because it's covering quite a lot of our costs. So we wanted to have workforce planning also integrated into it. But to do all of that also wanted to, let's say, save some time for our FP&A people. And for that, now we have a chatbot, which is definitely much more advanced with AI. And we are trying now to make sure that 50% of the recurring questions are, let's say, answered by chatbot. So we're working on it. So again, a matter of implementing, testing, believing in it. But I believe it can be a huge success to implement chatbot within finance. Implement new FP&A solutions. Yeah, it was also key because nowadays, I mean, all variance analysis, for example, can be done through AI. Of course, you always have a human eye on it, but there was also a way to, let's say, save some time for what matters, and everything which can be automated can be done through AI. And nowadays, lots of solutions available on the market are providing that. And the last step that we're looking forward, it's not yet there, but in the plan is to use also Gen AI to personalize, let's say, what we are providing to our, let's say, customers, internal customers like management or even like the operation teams, to have, like, say, their own insights based on what they need, also providing scenario planning. So that is what we're looking into the future. But first, of course, we had to go through all those first steps that I mentioned before. So in general, that's where we stand. It's a long journey. It takes a lot of time, also in change management, and we'll discuss after in the next discussion. So we cannot avoid, let's say, using AI because it's a big change, but we need to plan it and we need to tackle those three aspects, which can be indeed people, can be data, and also technology as such. So I hope it gives you a bit an idea of the journey and gives you some insights. Back to you, Hans.
Stefan, brilliant. Thank you very much. Great presentation, and especially taking us through, your people, data, and technology, and how technology, like you've put it, come last. So you've got to have those key foundational pillars before you start, that amazing journey of yours. And thank you for all the details. Now that we've heard from you, let us look at, in terms of what our people are doing in FP&A. And to do this, we're going to look at the first polling question, which I've just launched. And this is about which AI tool do you use most in FP&A? So is it RPA, robotic process automation? Is it predictive analytics and machine learning, natural language processing, all of those, or none of those? If you can vote, please. We want to find out now, after having seen Stefan's case study, what are you guys using within your own organization? Robotic process automation, RPA, predictive analytics and machine learning, natural language, all of those, or none of those. I'll give it another few seconds, and I'm now going to end the poll and share the results with everyone. So as we can see, RPA is 19%, predictive analytics is about 17%, natural language 16%. So very much, within the same ballpark. All of those three, none of those 44%. Stefan, a quick feedback on this outcome from you, please.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm not so surprised that we have 44% for none of those. I mean, indeed, it's a journey that lots of people didn't start. saying that indeed for the others, it takes lots of time to, let's say, acquire all those different technologies. So also not so surprised that indeed some people use one or the other. Maybe just for robotic process automation, I would have thought that it would be the first one because usually that's the easiest part. And one which is not there, but I'm really keen for people to look into it, is really chatbot, because you can save lots of time for people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. A great point to make. Of course, lots of possibilities, lots of opportunities. So please, after today, if you haven't adopted AI, think about it and take it to management, definitely. So thank you for your answer there, Stefan. Let us close the poll and move to our first discussion question that we have. And I'd like to ask all the other panelists to come and join us, please. So before I read out the question, let me just remind our audience, now that you've heard from Stefan, if you have any question for Stefan, could you please send it to us via the chat box? Or any other questions for anybody else on the subject matter, please start to send them through. We will answer a few of them, but all of them will be answered, if not today, by email. So please do that. Now we go to our exciting question. Will technology significantly reshape or require new finance role in 2025 and beyond? And I think this is a question that Stefan came up with, and it was through a Gartner presentation that he went to. But let's listen to Matthew on this one. So Matthew, what is your thought?
Well, I think in IT, definitely we need some new roles, people comfortable with algorithms and so on. In finance, I think it's more, to adjust the way we're working, to adapt ourselves. In 2025, that's for the short term. But on the long term, yes, definitely I think it will be a big change in the finance department. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Tanya.
My personal experience showed that our lines of business, our operations, they already handle new technology. And it's just a question of time for us in the FP&A functions to move up and getting in our business partnering, understanding their tools and using them as well. So probably 25, yes, I would say definitely. And the sooner we adapt to new roles and get familiar with the technology, the better we're prepared in our cross-functional roles.
Absolutely spot on. Thank you for that, Tanya. Rolf, please.
Yeah, I think reshape definitely the competency, like data science skills at least, to increase that, I think will come. And it's also getting in certain areas for sure more operational, because with it more data integrated, that's also coming from operations. The skills of being a business partner in these areas is a shift, I think, that we will see.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And finally, Stefan, let's circle back with yourself.
Yeah, indeed. I was really surprised when I saw the percentage provided by Gartner. But for me, indeed, a few years, I see already the role changing and managing so many data takes, like, say, new competencies to be able to deal with all of that. So for me, it makes sense that indeed we will have some certain type of new roles popping up. Because we need to be faster to provide information, and especially in this VUCA world nowadays, changing all the time. Speed is also key. So we need such new roles and think about it already now to be ready.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And just to remind the audience, was the percentage 40-odd%, wasn't it, Stefan?
It was 40%, so I was very, very surprised.
I mean, we've gone through automation throughout our lives, and of course, it does reshape all the roles. We've got to reskill. Some of the roles disappears because automation takes over completely, and then there's new roles. So nothing new there, but it is surprising, and the pace at which it is coming to us is surprising as well. So let's keep abreast of all of this. So Panelists, thank you very much. Let us now move on to our next presentation. So if we can all turn our camera off. So just reintroducing very briefly, our next presentation is from Matthew Dawn, and he's CFO at Eurostyle Systems, and today he's going to talk to us about navigating change, which is another great aspect of AI. So Stefan, Matthew, apologies, over to you.
No problem. Yes. Yes, hello everybody. So Eurostyle Systems, just for information, is a company operating in the automotive industry. So I will talk about one topic which concerns all companies implementing artificial intelligence in their financial planning process. And when you launch your own project, how to make sure that your organization will support you, that your CEO, executive committee, that your colleagues will all move in the same direction, how to operate this change. Because it's a big change. AI in FP&A is really a game changer. It's bigger than the digitalization wave we've seen a few years ago with dashboarding, BI, data lakes, and so on. Because with AI in FP&A, we are touching a very sensitive topic for the whole organization, and in particular for top management. If you are the CEO of a company, you know that you need to provide a financial guidance to your shareholders. That's the budget you want to reach for the next year. So it's a very important target, and you want to be sure about the numbers prepared by your finance department. And imagine if one day your CFO tells you that from now on, our budget will be prepared by algorithms. That could make you a bit uncomfortable. And for the people working in the organization who have been used to follow the same budget process for many, many years, adding AI in the equation is also a big change, because you're changing their habits, you're changing the way they've been working for 5 or 10 years. So some of them will probably be also uncomfortable about that. Some may even strongly reject it just because it's new and it's pushing them, a bit out of their comfort zone. And especially during the budget process, budget preparation, people usually in many companies, people are working hard, they are more tired, they can be nervous, anxious sometimes. So there are a lot of emotions. And when you bring this big change in this mixture of emotion, you will create many different reactions. And it's very hard to anticipate how people will react. So to illustrate that, I will share with you some feedbacks on the next slide. Yes, yeah, thank you. Feedbacks from CFO about the perspective of implementing artificial intelligence in their financial planning process. So what I did, I shortly explained them how an AI could help them build their budget or their forecast, and then I collected their reactions. So the first one told me it's a black box. I will never implement that before I understand exactly how it works. So he was not really skeptical, but very, very cautious. The next one told me, wow, it seems magical. So he was impressed. But on the other side, he was, associating AI with some kind of magic trick, something you cannot really explain. The third CFO, was very honest. He said, well, I think it's the future. It will probably come in the future, but I prefer to let other companies test it before. And when it will be robust, popular, then I will go for it. And then he admitted, I know, I'm not an early adopter, I'm a late adopter. Next one also is interesting, because after the speech, after the demonstration, he said, and he kept silent for a few seconds, and then he said, if one of my finance controller would use AI to build a forecast or budget, I will fire him immediately. And then he explained that for him, the role of the finance controller, is to really understand what's happening in the company. So to collect data, to compute it, in order to be able to build the financial plan. And if he let an AI do it for him, then all this knowledge, this know-how will be lost. So that's the reason why he was very, very angry about this perspective. And the last feedback I would like to share with you is from a discussion I had with a senior CFO. She said, if I had this AI solution, I will implement it immediately, because I've been waiting for 20 years for this kind of solution. When I make my budget, I know that the next day it's obsolete. So if an AI could update it for me, then my problem will be solved. So she was ready. So you see, we have exactly the same topic. We have 5 different people and 5 different reactions. So in your case, if you decide to launch your own projects, it's going to be the same. You will generate many different reactions. Now let's think on the next slide about some arguments you can bring to your skeptical colleagues. And we take the example of the CFO I mentioned earlier, the one who was saying it's a black box. Well, actually, it's a blue box on the picture, but it's a black box. What to do with that? Well, my recommendation is really to open a bit this black box, meaning to show them how it works. So try to find a good expert in AI, somebody who can explain in simple words how it's working. You can also create some use cases and have them really experiment the power of AI in FP&A. And if your use cases are well selected, if you have a good AI expert, they will be impressed. And they may even be amazed, like I was amazed by the accuracy of the prediction. But be ready, because you will probably always have somebody, one of your colleagues, will tell you, look, this specific number here in your prediction is wrong. So your program doesn't work. So AI doesn't work. So now the question is, are we humans perfect at financial planning? Are we so good that we never make any mistake when we build a budget or a forecast? No, we do make mistakes, right? So why couldn't we accept that AI could also make mistakes? And by the way, if you have a good IT team, they will fix all the issues and improve the program. We accept the fact that people around us, young colleagues, they progress year after year. They go through a kind of learning curve. So I think we should definitely accept that AI also goes through this learning curve and progress year after year. And within this FP&A circle, you hear many companies like Stefan just a few minutes ago confirming that AI is a very strong, reliable financial assistant when it comes to financial planning. So those are just a few examples of what you can say to your skeptical colleagues. But I have to warn you, because the day you want to go big, the day you really want to deploy your project on large scale, group level, in many different countries, all the organization, it's a completely different story. You need to be very, very well prepared for that, because it's very difficult to change or to adjust the culture of a company. And I will conclude my presentation with the last slide, just to sharing with you a few tips on change management. So the first recommendation is to make sure that your top management is a sponsor. This is really key. This is mandatory. Second recommendation, try to include in your program team or project team one work stream which is dedicated to change management. Some people are going to work on this sensitive topic. And once you have it, create a movement. Be visible on your internal networks. You can participate to the company seminar, for instance, if you can, and advertise your project. The idea is really to make people feel comfortable about this new solution, show them there is no risk, show them how they will benefit from this solution. This is very important. You can also share success stories. Well, find many different ways to communicate. And with all these activities, the target is to reach the tipping point. It's less than 20% of the population that will make the whole organization move in the right direction. One thing also I recommend you in this journey is to put in place what I call an hypercare service. It means a system where you can, when you start to deploy your project, you can control exactly what's happening, and you can be very reactive when you see that some issues appear. But the biggest quality, definitely, the biggest quality you need for this journey is resilience, because you will face resistance. Some people will try to stop your project, maybe. They may find many good reasons not to change. They may even complain to your CEO and say that it was much better before. So, well, you need to be ready for that. Resist. There is a great goal, so just go for it. And anyway, I think with AI in FP&A, I'm confident that there is no way back. So those are a few tips I wanted to share with you. I hope it's useful. And with that, I end my presentation and hand the floor over to you, Hans.
Matthew, thank you very much. Great presentation. And of course, that interview process with all these different CFOs you did is just amazing, because it shows even within the finance sort of community, how much resistance there is even before even going outside of the finance committee. And
Exactly.
what great tips as well you brought to us in terms of how do you then tackle those things, and how do you go about, navigating those issues. So thank you very much for that. I think the next thing we have on is let us hear from our audience in our next polling question, which have just launched right now, is that which FP&A skill is the least likely to be replaced by AI? Is it strategic thinking and decision making? Is it communications and storytelling? Is it stakeholder management and relationship building? Or is it innovation and creative problem solving? So, which FP&A skill is least likely to be replaced by AI? First one, strategic thinking. Second one, communication and storytelling. Third one, stakeholder management and relationship building. Innovation and creative problem solving. If I could ask you all to vote, please, I will give it another 5 seconds, and I am going to shortly close it off. And there we go, and share it. So what are we seeing? 22% strategic thinking, 10% communication, 60% stakeholder management, 8% innovation and creative problem solving. Any feedback from you here, Matthew?
Yes, I'm very happy about this result because it's good news for humans, because we see that relationship building will stay human according to this poll. No, I agree with that. I mean, I would have voted also number 3 because that's, I think, the one thing which is more difficult today, where we to see AI in this kind of interactions. So no surprise.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. Human intelligence, relationship building, and talking to stakeholder management and stuff like that. Absolutely imperative, and we can't see AI taking over that at the moment. So that's fantastic. So thank you very much for that. Let me close the poll, and let us now bring our other panelists to discuss this question that Matthew has put forward too. Before we do that, let me just again remind our audience to please send your question. Now you've heard Matthew as well speak, as well as Stefan. So please, if you've got any question, please keep sending them to us. We've got quite a few already, so thank you for that. Now, we go back to our question. So what was your toughest AI implementation challenge during your project, and how did you conquer it? So, Stefan, let's go over to you.
Yeah. But definitely, it's as Matthew said in his presentation, it's people. So usually there's lots of resistance because people tend to, let's say, keep it as it is, not going out of their comfort zone. It's definitely a big stretch for people, and some have really like almost a complete rejection to AI because of indeed keeping the human part, let's say, in control. So I had to conquer that. It's time. For me, we spend a lot of time, and I'm talking about sometimes years to be able to, let's say, make that change slowly, let's say.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Resilience is what Matthew called it in his last slide. So thank you for that. Tanya.
Let me complement what Matthew showed us in his presentation, which I really enjoyed. You had a brief story about someone who said, well, there's a black box. I feel uncomfortable. Whoever opens that black box gets fired immediately. That's probably what we face today throughout our organizations, being people being skeptical. But on the other hand, there is that trigger of the benefits like time savings and getting a better quality of how we run our business. Still, to me, and I'm not spoiling anything because of my presentation is coming right up thereafter, the biggest challenge still is getting the right data and the high quality data, so it's trustable. And I'll be speaking about that. So I hand it back to you, Hans.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's go to Rolf now. Rolf, your feedback on this question, please.
Yeah, I think everything was said makes a lot of sense. I'm in the lucky situation being in a software company that's living from that. So people are there that want to do this. Skills is something the need to change skills and adapt is so fast that sometimes this is just keep track. And then very often with data, I completely agree, and we will hear about this for sure more. Um, it's so disillusionizing when you want to identify patterns or something, do a prediction, and the data quality is not good enough or the volume is not good enough. So it's really the combination of things that we see.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. And now let's circle back with Matthew. Matthew, your thoughts? Your closing thoughts?
Yes, no, what my colleague said, I think it's perfectly fair. I would say it's the intensity of the issues or the challenges depend on the case by case, on the company by company. But no, just yes, as I mentioned, don't forget the human factor, the change management. Time, as Stefan said, time is a good help to change or adjust this company culture.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, panelists, for answering this question. So let us now move on to our next presentation, and let us turn our camera. And to deliver that, we have Tanya, who will talk to us about data, as she just mentioned in that question part. So Tanya, over to you whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Hans, for handing over. Today, I'm leading the data efforts of our company, DB Regio. We're a subsidiary of Deutsche Bahn. We made 10 billion euro turnover last year with 40,000 employees, running 22,000 trains for 6.2 million passengers a day. So we're truly providing services for the public mass transportation on rail and road. Saying this, our company is 190 years old, and the first challenge was to cope with a very new technology called steam power. Since then, within the 190 years, we faced a couple of more technical challenges. So after implementing electricity to our favors, today it's probably AI, analytics and then AI. In the FP&A functions, we learned that since we usually just relied on our ERP systems, on getting to know the price and volume differences to our previous year or to plan versus actual, we learned that in a very fast changing world to hook up to our lines of business, to be able to better predict the business outcome. And it was a pretty smart move in the past to start with business partnering. That was to really understand the true value drivers and on that basis run scenarios. Along with those metrics, of course, for the drivers came millions of data, big data. And as I move on with my slide deck, I can only say that we experienced modern technology that yesterday it was Excel spreadsheets, which no longer handle that big data well. That modern technology is for us to set foot in the meantime to acknowledge that better understanding our business needs a different way of running FP&A. It's a getting grip on the variables which is necessary and starting predictions by extrapolating from the past. We take advantage of anything just like machine learning, AI, generative AI as well, to bring in new perspectives. Because we know that with a broader or a bigger width of what we can see and detect, we then better navigate as well the global headwinds. When it comes to AI, we're talking now, I'll show you that on my next slide. We sure appreciate the speed and the power of being of taking informed decisions, or as well to drive innovation, and sure enough, improve by this our business outcome. Usually, when we talk about AI, it's a lot of invest that we need. And when we invest as FP&A, we expect benefits. So what could be one of the benefits that's behind artificial intelligence that it helps us? There might be more customer centricity for increasing sales. It might be a better feeling for your economic well-being, or as well closing that gap of missing skilled workforce, as well as in achieving our sustainability goals. Now we come to a major finding, and hopefully to most of you, it's a no-brainer. AI is like a car with no gas. It goes nowhere without data. Or to satisfy that magnitude of that technology, I should rather say building AI without data is like building a rocket with no fuel. And when I get to fuel, I'd like to get a hint on 3 types of fuel that we need for AI. Fuel number 1 is data. So we need proper data, and it's teaching and training an AI is like with no proper data to teach a cat to fetch, and that will end in chaos. But why is it so hard to get proper data? I'd say in FP&A we're professionals in weighing, measuring, and counting. And today our companies do that in their performance management systems. So throughout our management levels, there is a performance management set up with a clear responsibility for KPIs, with transparency on KPIs, and with target setting on those. Now imagine having the most worthy item that you need for your AI and not knowing about its quality. So do you have a metric system for your data quality? Or do you have a continual improvement process on your data? So I come to my second type of fuel we need, the processes. Why am I talking about processes? Most think that data is derived and created in applications, but I must say that's wrong. Why do you say so? I'd like to take a very, very brief journey with me on our data for timetable. We're running trains on a timetable, and it's the basis for our punctuality measurement. To us, punctuality means that in our contracts that are handed out to run different train lines by the public hand, we get penalized for being unpunctual. So it's one of our key value drivers. Unfortunately, there's not that one application where we derive our timetable, but it's 8 different ones. And we found that out by looking at the end-to-end process of our managerial process. So at the end, what we found out that we link that responsibility for the data, for the rightfulness, for the completeness of our data, for the timetable, to the responsibility of the managerial process. Because there's a person in charge, and it owns not only the process, but as well the data that's derived from there. I'd like to point a second thing out to processes, and that is everything about data logistics and excellence. It sounds very technical, providing data, but the end to my saying is rather that we have to ensure that free flow of data with trust within our companies, but as well to our partners. So AI usually is only as smart as the data you feed it. And with that, I come to my third fuel. The third type of fuel is about change. So your AI-driven company needs responsibilities and responsible role holders who are officially supporting the task of data management. When I look at the implementation of a management system for data, that's in our company called data governance, it includes all steps necessary to harmonize what Mathieu talked about, people, processes, and tech, that Stefan pointed out to us. And to me, it's less a technical project, but rather a program of true transformation. Let's us look back at the implementation of electricity when it was innovated. It took 30 years to be found in our shop floors because it took so much time to adapt the way of how we run our business. AI revolutionizes our business as well. And it's, I would say, one of my last words to this presentation, it's our task to coach our organizations to become a true digital champion. Thank you for sharing your time with me.
Tanya, brilliant presentation as always. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and all your hard work that you keep doing over the last few years on just getting data to that point where, you know, it is constantly improving and of course then fueling, you know, the machine that is called AI. So thank you very much for that. Let us look at data and data quality as far as our members are concerned. So I'm now going to launch our third poll. So do you measure data quality as part of performance management in your organization? Very, very important. You just heard what Tanya mentioned, the fact that they've got a data quality measurement and performance management system is very important. So let's hear from you guys. Do you measure data quality as part of your performance management in your organization? 1, yes, we do, and it helps us increase the value of data. Number 2, we are working on it and we soon be doing so. And number 3, we don't see the importance of that and have no plans for implementation. So please, if you can vote, do you measure data quality as part of your performance management in your organization? Number 1, yes, we do, and it helps us massively. Number 2, we're working on it and will soon be doing so. And number 3, no, we don't, and we don't see the importance. So I'm now going to end the poll. Thank you very much for voting and share the results with you. 32% are actually measuring it, and they do tell us it increases the value of data. 55% are on that journey and will soon be adopting it. 13% don't see the value at the moment. Tanya, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm truly glad that almost 90% are working on it and noticed that deriving value out of data to gain insights for our companies, for our organizations, is very important to them. Still doing that is quite a big effort. And noticing that 32% are already on the track, I'd say a third is a pretty good number on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely well
said. That's you guys running probably already AI cases and noticing how you can how you can bring yourselves closer cross-functionally to better understand your value drivers and manage your companies in a better way.
Yeah, no, you pointed that out. Absolutely fantastic news. 33%, so a third is already on that journey and they are measuring data quality. 55% are thinking about it, so they should accelerate that after listening to you and getting the feedback as well. So for those 13%, I think now is the time to start somewhere in terms of managing it. So thank you very much for that, Tanya. Ladies and gentlemen, keep sending your questions. We've got a lot of questions now. We want to get more. We will answer a lot of them today. Those we can't answer, we will answer to you via email. So nothing will get unanswered. Let me call on our other panelists now and let us put the same question to the panelists. So do you measure data quality as part of performance management within your organization? Stefan, your thoughts, your answer, please.
Yeah, so indeed in our organization, some part is measured, some not. So I would say it's also a culture, let's say, journey that you need to implement in the company. So I would expect it depends on the company. So for us, we're, let's say, at the start of the journey. So I would consider as a number 2 in the survey. But still we have to, let's say, influence this culture change because some people might not see, let's say, the impact that they might have through this quality of data. So still ongoing.
Absolutely. Very important to point out that maybe some places there are you currently already using it, in some places not. So the learnings will be massive to bring to the other business units. So Matthew, what are your thoughts?
Same. So in my company, yes, still in progress, but it's true that I mean, in finance, data is key, and the accuracy of data is key. Input data, output data, and when we put in perspective the implementation of AI, we know how critical it is to have good data. So definitely, it has to be a kind of mandatory KPI in many companies.
Brilliant, great answer there. Rolf, what do you see at your end?
Yeah, it's at the same state. In some areas we do, in some areas we actually have people that are providing important data with MBOs, so to incentivize this as well. But because the amount of data we want to integrate is increasing constantly, we find always areas where we also should measure, have to improve. So it's a never-ending story. I think you'll never get there to be done, and it's part of the work just.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's forever changing, and you constantly got to measure and change the way you measure as well. Tanya, any closing thoughts from you?
Let me encourage anyone who has not started yet to get started. There might be an easy step to get started at all. Maybe you think about defining your core data products. What is the most critical to your business success? And once you define that, you might find as well a nice alignment of those core data products to your corporate strategy. And once that setting is fine, just get started with the first data product. Think about the process, how that data is derived or created. Look at the process and define, is there any pain in your data quality? Where does it happen? At which stage of your process? And find a measure there. That might be a sound management judgment, or maybe you can truly define figures, how you derive that and put it in KPIs. But it makes you feel more comfortable when you use that data product later on for all your efforts, your management efforts.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tanya and panelists, for your thoughts on this question. Some brilliant answers there. So thank you very much for that. Now let us move on to our next section, which is going to be delivered by Dr. Rolf. And today he's going to take us through accelerating AI ML evolution. How can technology really help us drive the next breakthrough? So over to you, Rolf, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Hans. Let's start. Yeah. After we've heard already in the very first presentation about people, data, and technology, and had more deep dive in the people and the data aspect, I would like to cover the technology part. And to start this, I would like to use an analogy because every one of us has an idea about autonomous driving. Everyone knows that AI has a lot to do with that you come from non-automated cars with adding assistance systems, making driving a car easier at the very end with the goal to fully automate it, having a car driving through the traffic. Building an analogy what that would mean in the FP&A space. And for that, we see now on the right side the different steps that are similar to what we see on the left side for the cars. So the process without any automation, without any AI, is really the Excel-based manual processes where you're collecting data by importing raw data from source systems, refining it, sending out reports, collecting numbers by sending out Excel sheets, and so on. And the first step that does not necessarily have to be AI, but is a foundation really to automate the process and getting the data in a comparable way, fast and reliable, together with import automation, report distribution, workflow support, data preparation, really to automate the manual areas there. And when you have that foundation, the next level could be how to predict this data, how to use it for financial planning and analytics and forecasting. So rolling forecasts, having the data where you can identify patterns to look forward. A next step that we see is what we call building a digital twin of your organization, which means it's not just the finance data. To understand and manage the finance data, you need to understand the operational data, which means what are the operational drivers behind your revenue, behind the costs coming from the HR, the people segment, and so on. So to make informed decisions. And at the very end, We heard this also in the very first presentation, how to make that accessible for everyone, how to give and be based on the data that's now representing with technology the entire organization, to make that accessible as a business partner for the different stakeholders in the organization. So a lot of different aspects. On the next slide, we see how we clustered this in different types of automation and help where AI with technology can really support making business decisions better, faster, and AI support. And the first thing is a pillar of activities that we call hyper automation. Reason for that is when you look into the business, 41% of the, or in surveys, 41% of the organizations are saying that the excessive manual workload and effort is really one of the main problems in the FP&A department. And for that, AI, robotic process automation, chatbots, everything that we heard in the beginning can make things easier and save and reduce manual tasks by automating them and giving just an eliminating this time error prone and frustrating time consuming processes. So this is pillar number one. A second one is what I already mentioned with the digital twin, and that's really coming from that role that finance is not just anymore about reporting about the financial results of an organization, like we heard in the presentation before, where it's really the punctuality that's driving customer satisfaction, which is at the very end impacting the result of a business, means we need to connect the dots towards the operational areas in an organization. And there, the challenge also that we heard before is the lack of data consistency or data quality to put this together. But helping here to get bad connections, to see patterns, to identify correlations between different areas, to really build a digital representation of the system so that you can see what's the impact by increasing prices, or what is the price of manufacturing something in terms of which inventory is needed, what are the purchasing prices, which, and so on, and what's happening when there are certain challenges in the process chain, that this can be simulated and decisions better made for the process here. And the last pillar is really about how make all this information accessible. Because when I'm representing the value creation across the organization, I also have to be in finance, the business partner across the organization, so that the stakeholders can get the information that they need out of this entire picture that are relevant for them. And to make that as easy as possible, one third aspect could be using natural language processing, chatbots, and natural language to really make this information accessible for the different stakeholders in the organization at any time. So this is the clustering that we have to make that more tangible in terms of what are the specific areas that we have. We see on the next slide the representation of the different stakeholders that are working on this. So first of all, many of the AI or the FP&A professionals running the FP&A systems, which means it's basically the tasks of getting data, whether that's internal, external, integrated into some bigger picture, represent this in a model, and at the very end, represent it in dashboards, spreadsheets, charts, PowerPoint presentations to the people that need to make decisions. And that's the second role of people that are working with the systems, which we see on one click further, that the solution users are actually using the results that's represented for analysis of data, forecasting, planning, and reporting. And coming back to that analogy of the assistance systems in a car, in many of these areas, we can help to identify the right data, to have wizards that are integrating data automatically or cleansing data that's improper and make it comparable, or filling gaps of missing data to make the system faster, to automate report creation, because this can be automated with templates and so on. And the same for the end users, like automate the prediction by doing just a forecast based on a time series prediction, or predictive planning with the driver-based planning, things like this. These are more the classical machine learning AI supported systems. And then there are a lot of natural language possibilities of when you're writing a data integration, why would you write SQL or whatever code? You can just do this more automated with a chatbot, and then the system generates the code for the professional. On the other hand, for the end users, why not asking the system regarding the numbers of the last month and how they correlated with something, and you get, like with ChatGPT, an answer generated to make that systems accessible for someone. So this is really how the future, and in the future, and partially already today, and we will see this in a moment, technology can support. What does this mean for the people working with this? So on the next slide, we see that, of course, changes the role and the skills needed in an FP&A department and in the finance organization, because coming from finance and accounting, the scope is widening really to data scientists, science, and more system-related thinking. From spreadsheets, it's really more about statistics, and people coming from university know Python, how to work with larger data amounts, and it's just a level higher. And it's not just formulas like an Excel formula to calculate a certain KPI. It's really more about model thinking, data models, and management. And that means the skills in the finance departments have to be developed. So that means it's more about data interpretation. So how to identify bias in data, how to interpret the data. It's in general about data literacy, because it's not just single numbers, it's the whole context, how to manage this, how to identify the patterns, how to actually refine the data, querying it in different systems up to in natural language, the systems thinking and insight generation. What is the best way to make data visual, to analyze it, to identify anomalies in the data? So the skills of the people in the finance organizations are expanding further on. But this is all something that's going on. At the very end, on the next slide, we see this is not just all future, that it will come. We see, and these are just some examples of how it's done in our system, how in all the different areas we can expand the way or automate the way how it's worked. So, for example, with data-driven modeling, taking raw data and come up with a stepwise guidance how to create the representation as a data model for your system. Or while you're doing this, asking in natural language questions to your knowledge base, and you get answers how to configure the system, how to achieve certain results. For the end users, they can work with time series analysis or driver-based planning to make forecasts on machine learning and AI technologies without being a data scientist by themselves. The same for AI reporting. You just ask a question and you get probably a table or a visualization of data represented. And with Gen AI initial results of interpreting data, you have data on your dashboard and you want to have a textual summary of that. This is possible. Meanwhile, or for more regulatory areas, that you have an initial draft of the data that's residing in your system to put this in a textual summary, like for an ESG report or a financial close statement. So these just some examples how technology is at the moment with a very high speed changing and supporting what we've heard before. And that was my part of giving a bit of a view in the technology aspect of the topic.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rolf. What a presentation. You know, what is AI all about? Why you should implement it? How do you go about implementing it? And then, you know, the benefits towards the end of, you know, and of course, how can technology take you through that next level? So thank you. Amazing presentation. Let us now move on and listen from our panelist on a very important question that I kind of threw some light at the beginning. So panelists, if you can join us. And this is to do with adoption of AI and ML in finance. What we've seen is a bit of a slow down from what it used to be. So why has adoption of AI and machine learning in finance seemed to have slowed down? Stefan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking that in our, let's say, volatile world, lots of FP&A people, let's say, have some other things to do, and maybe the priority is not on that now, knowing all the changes that we had the last years, and we had to basically adapt to it. So yeah, I think it's more a matter of priority for organization based on that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Matthew?
Yes, like Stefan, I guess it's difficult to answer because we don't know the detail of each let's say of this poll. But I guess there are more urgent topics and priorities on the agenda of the CFOs and the CEOs. But still, I think it's probably a temporary slowdown because the direction is very clear. The AI is so powerful that again, there is no way back. So we'll see that coming back in a bit of months.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and definitely after our webinar as well, a lot more people will be thinking about it. So, Tanya, what are your thoughts and your answer, please?
I would compliment Rolf. He told us how powerful the task is of implementing. It's not done overnight. There's a big challenge on getting a consistent databases. That's usually not right there, so you have to work on it. And of course, there is a lack of resources. Mathieu pointed that out, that as well, Stefan told us, yes, there's a redirection of our funds that are available. And with a very volatile world, we're not as eager as before to just spend. We're rather prioritizing and doing that consciously and trying to convince with the results. So the benefits that we're getting out of finance AI might not be as a large impact to our strategic efforts as something on AI in our lines of business.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Great answer there. And then we circle back to Rolf. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, thank you for mentioning it seemed like, because I think it's really temporary because it's such an important movement. What I see a little bit also with our customers is, on the one hand, the Gartner hype cycle has this valley of disillusion where people see it's not an easy task and you have to step back and rethink things. And I think this was part of it. Another thing that I can imagine has to do with this is when you look at where it went down a little bit, it was at the time when ChatGPT came out, and we could see that the whole perception of what people are after when talking AI, before everyone was thinking machine learning and things like this. And now then it was generative AI. So companies had to step back and think, where do I invest? Which projects should I focus? And I'm pretty sure that this picks up super quickly in the near future.
Yeah, no, brilliant answers there. Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing that with us. Before we move to the key takeaways or conclusion part, I would like to remind our audience to please keep sending your questions. We've got a whole list of questions. We will attempt to answer some of them live now in a few minutes. The rest will get answered to you by our panelists directly to you on your email. So please do not stop any burning question that you think may not be relevant or be relevant. Please type them through and send them through to us. Thank you very much for that. Now let's go to our key takeaways or conclusion, as I like to say. So Stefan, what will your key conclusions be for this session?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a matter of starting. We spend lots of time, especially in FP&A, to do variance analysis, building scenarios, sensitivity analysis. All of that, we could spend our time to, let's say, more added value. But for that, we need to, let's say, have a few early adopters as we speak in the organization to start the journey. Being the shadow of the leader helps. And you have to start. That's the only thing. The dream of everybody is to have more resources thanks to AI, or to predict the future. Of course, we don't have crystal ball, and AI neither. So it's all a matter of data. But at least we can faster identify gaps. That's also the goal. So yeah, we are faster with internet a few years back, so we should be faster with AI. That's a brilliant conclusion.
Thank you very much. Great conclusions there. Matthew, your conclusions, please.
Yes, well, my key takeaway, actually, I take it from the presentation of Stefan, because he's mentioning data, people, and technology. I was thinking about that, and I think data and people, this is familiar to us because we are used to working with people, and data is something which is familiar. Now we add a third element, which is this new technology with AI, and we are not used to it. So it's a change. We need to adapt. And just to find the best way to make this transition as smooth as possible for the organization.
Fantastic answer there. Fantastic conclusion. Thank you. Tanya, your conclusions, please.
I'd like to add that technology assists, yes. We want to be smart in the use. It's probably right there at hand, like Copilot or any other generative AI. But it's our task to ensure that there's a de-risk of our investments that we take. And for this, we definitely have to have a very tough hand on the data housekeeping.
Yeah, no, brilliant answer there. Brilliant. And then we circle back and finish off with Rolf.
Yeah, I think what we see also in the presentation today, the journey has just started, and we have the three perspectives: people, data, technology. And I think because it's so new and the changes are so fast and significant, we need to stay adaptable in all of these areas, adapt with the way how we educate people, adapt with the way how we are able to make use of additional data sources and get them harmonized and get the big picture out of that, being adaptable with the technology, because new systems are coming super fast, and connect these. This is the secret of the whole thing, that you bring the content together, and this is where we just need to be flexible to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Thank you. Thank you very much for your key takeaways, ladies and gentlemen. Let us now move to our exciting Q&A session. Please keep sending your questions. We've got lots and lots of them to answer. We are going to try to answer some of them today, and the rest will be answered to you over the next few days via email. So let us start by question one to Stefan. And Stefan, the question to you is on the chat box element of what you talked about. Can you tell us a few key places within FP&A where you are using chat box, and how does it work, please?
Yeah. So I mean, you might have experienced that sometimes, I mean, your, let's say, financial business analyst have to answer let's say many information about, I don't know, stupid questions like what is my cost center, up to some complex question about can I recognize revenue if I do this and this in a certain contract. So there's lots of questions which are can be answered by a chatbot easily. You just need to input the content, have a nice prompt to be able to set it up. You have to test it for a while, definitely, to make sure that this is, let's say, answering most of the questions, because you need to have, let's say, an adoption from the start. If not, it's lost. But at the end, indeed, we have the content, usually in finance, a lot of content, but it's in the head of people. So you just need to basically feed the chatbot for that. So it's really mostly 50% of the questions are recurrent questions, usually for financial business or controllers.
Yeah, and of course within FP&A we get non-stop these questions coming from the rest of the business, which could be self-help, which could be very quickly found out and answer and sent back to them. So, Stefan, thank you very much for answering that question. A great example there. So, the second question then goes to Matthew. And Matthew, here it's about potential risks of using AI in FP&A. And particularly in, I don't know, predictive modeling, decision support. Is there any risk? If there are any risks, how do you mitigate them?
Is there any risk? The risk is not to get the data you expect. So the risk is to have the wrong algorithm. That's the only one I see, because I mean it's saving time. It's normally giving you some more accurate information. So I don't see really a risk. The risk could be that you could, as mentioned, you could disappoint people if you start too early and you don't test your system. But no, honestly, I don't see it. Again, it's so powerful. You get something which is reliable almost simultaneously, that I don't see any risk.
Yeah, no, of course, you have to have put the work beforehand, done the testing,
Yeah.
look at the algorithm and everything else. I mean, there
Yeah.
are lots of risks within those parameters that we talked about.
Sure.
If you do it right, then of course you limit the risks that come with it. So a brilliant answer there. Thank you very much. Let's go to Tanya now. Tanya, the question I've got for you, and I just scroll through. You talked about data quality. So who is the owner within the organization of the data quality? I mean, how does that work within your organization? Is it by section, or please do shed some light?
Excellent question. There's many ways how you can allocate responsibility. The way we handled it was we followed the managerial responsibilities for processes, because we know that data is derived from processes rather than data silos or applications. And the owner of a managerial process is the owner of the data. So it's not a domain thing, but it's very process oriented, as responsibility for your economic well-being is handled as well in those processes.
Yeah, and hence you get the performance management and the incentive to make sure that the data is correct, because it sits individually with the person who manages that process, rather than sitting right at the top with somebody who owns all of the data. Then responsibility and kind of gets diluted, right?
We've made the experience as well that the person in charge of the process is usually that person who is responsible for the budget and for the workforce to run the process. So it's the person who can adapt if there is too few people running the process, or if it needs separate budgets to come up with new functionalities in the applications to run that process. That's the person who is truly in charge, managerially seen. Yeah, and
Brilliant.
that's how we did it.
Thank you, Tanya. Let's move on very quickly to Rolf. And the one I've got for you, Rolf, is around confidentiality and AI. So basically, how do you handle the confidentiality of your numbers when using AI tools on financial data? Do you have specific company environment where the data is not used to train the AI models? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it depends really on the areas because I did show different use cases. Of course, when we are showing something like the help center and asking questions, it's trained on our data only, and it's a trained model based on content that we have. If it's data that's used for predictions, there are different possibilities. One is, for example, that you're not moving out any company internal names of products, but just patterns, and compare it with patterns. So the training has happened on a broader data, but it's used only on the data that you're using within your organization, so that the data is not going out to ChatGPT or something like this, because this would not be the right thing. So different possibilities depending on the data and where you can learn from general patterns and how to transfer this to your own data within the organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on there. I think people always confuse or start to think of the likes of ChatGPT. Whatever you're doing stays internally within your company. It's not pumped into ChatGPT or anything like that. It's within your system, within your company, and the security is quite high on those. Let us very, very quickly move on to the second question. I think we've got time, but short answers, please, as much as you can. So let's go to Stefan. And Stefan, I've got a question for you. What type of cost investment do we need to consider to get at that first level of AI suite in finance, for example? Any sort of idea of cost and stuff like that would be handy.
It really depends how large is your project. So if you would talk a bit, I mean, only a little chatbot, I mean, it's very cheap actually. Well, actually, if you think about like a full ERP integrated with indeed embedded AI to do all your variance analysis and those things, it's millions sometimes. So my recommendation is to start small and not big, to get acquainted to it, and then once you're familiar, then you can go for larger projects with a big roadmap.
Absolutely, absolutely important. Small, start small. The cost is small as well, and then once you've learned, you move on to bigger projects. So, second question for Matthew. Presumably, with AI in planning, you need to spend a lot of time programming and testing and working it. Uh, will you want a different approach for revenue, overheads, working capital? I think there's a bit of confusion as to everything starts, everything is into it. How does it work? Do you start with something, as we mentioned, small and keep it separate?
Well, you can have different approach. I mean, there are many companies who start with sales, and in this FP&A circle, we hear many of them talking about sales. So that's probably one thing you can start with. And then, yes, you should segregate probably between P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, different approach, yes.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Tanya, your second question, a good one here as well. If current systems and processes are very divergent and there is a plan to align them through an ERP implementation at the moment, would you advise to wait until ERP is implemented to build it in AI or to implement AI, or just go ahead and implement AI?
I would rather choose what Stefan showed us, that it's a question about your key drivers. And if you want to get a grip on your key drivers, you should start on implementing your algorithms, get AI attached to that as far as you can stretch, and take it from there. It's probably rather a strategic decision that you take. Where is the largest pain, and what would you like to heal, or where do you see the largest benefits of your doing? That's probably portfolio management as we're used to it as well. And you decide on weighing up cost versus the benefit you get out of it, and you get started. Always looking at how much can you spend.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point there. And then final question for today to Rolf. Of course, we're running very quickly out of time. Rolf, this question comes obviously from somebody in banking. In banking, there are a lot of regulatory guidelines and on how to do planning. How can AI keep in mind the regulators, or how is it keeping? Have you got any experience on that you could shed some light?
My honest answer is specific to banking. I don't have it. It's more whether there are specific regulations that we need to keep in mind. Of course, the privacy topics, that data is not going out, we have. And the use cases that we've seen are less for an external reporting, things like that, but more for understanding patterns in how processes are connected to each other. So value creation within the organization, more on whatever manufacturing and other industries. And there we didn't have that challenge. So I'm sorry that I don't have a smart answer there.
No, you pointed it right, because it's an internal situation. It's an internal system. It's for improvement internally. And of course, you report whatever you need to report externally. Nothing is going out. So we are not pumping anything in Chat GPT, for example. It stays internal. So there is no issue with regulators as far as, I mean, GDPR was a big one, years ago. So we are abiding by that. So yeah, your answer is spot on there. So thank you very much for your answers, ladies and gentlemen. Just stay on the camera. I've got a few slides just to finish off the webinar for today. So what have we got on? Our last webinar is on November 19th, and it is talking about the crystal ball, top 5 trends shaping FP&A in 2025 and beyond. Please put that in your diary. good time now to say a massive thank you to our 4 panelists for such great presentations, such great insight, all your hard work. There's a lot behind the scene to be able to put this together. So panelists, from the bottom of my heart, a big, massive thank you for making the time and the effort. So thank you very much. Second thank you, of course, goes to our audience who have been bearing with us for an hour and a half. I hope it's been massively beneficial to you as well. And of course, to our sponsor, Jedox, for making this possible. And just to leave you with, guys, this is how you can stay in touch with us. So please do link up, go to our website. We are on YouTube and on Twitter as well. This is how you can follow us. Please do so. Just before I close the webinar for today, I would just like to remind you, when I close it, you will get a quick feedback session. Give us 30 seconds of your time. Tell us how we did, how we can improve, but also tell us about what would you like to hear from us in the future. And with that, I would like to say a big, massive thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope to see you in the next one. Take care and see you very soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.